And welcome everybody to a special town hall with Ben Wolff, who's president and CEO of Paladine AI, ticker symbol is PDYN. Ben, thank you so much for taking the time and sharing everything you know about Paladine AI with us.
Thanks for having me today, Adam.
So, Ben, I always like to begin. Can you please tell us your business and the opportunity set, what you do, and what's in it for the customer?
You bet. So we make artificial intelligence software that is designed to make robots smarter. There are a lot of jobs out there that are still being done by humans that are boring, repetitive jobs, sometimes dangerous, dirty jobs. And both the employees and the employers would like to figure out how to automate those jobs. A lot of these tasks, though, are so complicated that historically, automation has not been able to do the job because of the complexity of the environment or the objects being manipulated. Our whole focus is to bring software to the market that can work on a wide range of industrial robots, both fixed in place and mobile, things like drones, that allow those machines to autonomously automate tasks that historically haven't been able to be automated because of their complexity.
Oh, wonderful. So you're able to take machines or robots, drones, things that are doing mundane tasks or even more advanced tasks. And is it true to say that you help them think, or where does the AI component come into play?
Yeah, we actually have a closed loop AI software system that allows a robot to observe, reason, learn, and act. So it's a virtuous cycle where the robot understands what's going on in the environment. It then learns what it needs to do in that environment. And it actually goes through a reasoning process, much the way we humans do, before it makes a decision about what to do. And that's the big difference between traditional automation and autonomous machines, is that they have some element of reasoning or thinking. They have to make a decision about some circumstance that they confront.
I love that. So let's talk about the actual services you offer. Is it hardware and software, software only, and is it impacted by the tariffs?
So we are primarily a software company. Some of our software is shipped on a small computer effectively that gets co-located with an industrial robot. So there's a small component of hardware, but that's really just a vehicle to get our software embedded with the machine or the robot. In the case of drones, we don't provide any hardware at all. We just provide our software directly to the drone manufacturers, and it gets integrated on the compute power that's already on the drone. So primarily a software business. Think of us as an annual licensing model where we license the software on a per robot basis to our customers. And with that license, they get full use of the software. They get upgrades as we release them. And it's very, very simple to use. It's something that you don't even need a high school education to be able to become a robot programmer. So it democratizes, if you will, the ability to teach robots how to perform complex tasks.
Oh, I love that. So basically anybody can use it and it can be applied for multiple industries, even defense sector, for commercial uses, so on and so forth. Is that correct?
You bet. Anybody that's doing any kind of manufacturing or logistics, even if they don't have robots in their facility today, we're able to show them how, with a fairly modestly priced robot and our software, that they can save a ton of money and increase productivity and quality.
Got it. And then let's talk about the competition. Can you please give us a lay of the land?
Sure, there are a lot of companies that are focused on robotics and automation. Most of them are delivering a hardware-focused solution that has some advanced software on it. We are a pure play software company. So we have what we call a hardware agnostic approach. We currently work on 4 or 5 different major vendors or OEMs of robotic systems. So it's not proprietary to just a single system. That gives us a lot more flexibility to be able to address the needs of our customers. So we're a software standalone play. There are a handful of other companies that are all private that I'm aware of that are working on trying to solve the same problems. They take a very different approach. Their approach is using large foundation models that reside in the cloud with billions of data points that have been collected over years of time to be able to teach a robot how to perform a new or different task. We are the polar opposite of that. We use a very limited data set with small models that all live right on the edge where the robot is itself. So we avoid the cost and the latency associated with cloud connectivity. I know that's a lot of technical speak. Bottom line is we are unique in our approach, which is a much lighter duty version that still gets the job done in much the same way we humans do. When we make a decision about what we need to do in our daily routine, we don't think about billions of data points, even though our senses could collect billions of data points. But we don't have the processing power to be able to think through billions of data points all at one time. So we have figured out, as humans have evolved, how to only focus on those data points that are most important. And that's what our AI software does also. It just focuses on that limited data set that's really important. And I'm not aware of any other companies that are taking that approach to what we call physical intelligence, meaning artificial intelligence to be used in the real world, not just in the cloud or in the digital world.
Wow, okay, I love that. And I know from a valuation standpoint, some of these private companies are worth, crazy numbers. So there's clearly Palladyne's an undervalued stock, from my opinion, at least. And I'd like to know if you can give us, Ben, some examples of how the technology is used in real life, please.
Sure. So first of all, to your prior point, yes, I think that there's clearly a big delta between what our current market cap is as a public company and what private companies are being valued at, even private companies that are much further behind in their product development lifecycle and getting to the point of having real revenues. So there's a disconnect there. I think that is partly of the fact that we have been pre-revenue for the last couple of years while we've been public. And we all know that public investors are focused on financial metrics, not more of kind of a pre-revenue story. And so I think we suffer from that. I think once we turn the corner and start generating meaningful revenues, obviously that perception will change. In terms of the question you posed about meaningful applications of the software, let me give you two great examples. One is work that we're doing with the U.S. Air Force, where we have partnered with them to demonstrate our software on industrial robots that are doing aircraft parts maintenance and repair. So specifically taking corrosion and paint off of old components, refurbishing them, and allowing them to be used again. That's historically been a process that is very labor intensive. You have to have people in hazmat suits with some kind of a media blaster or sanding tool in a big paint booth. Dangerous, dirty, nasty, hot work. Takes a long time. We're now able to automate that. That is a great example of an unstructured environment, unstructured task, not an assembly line where robots can now do a job that historically humans have had to do. Another example is in a manufacturing facility. Think about a big manufacturing line, let's say for an automobile manufacturer, where there's 300 robots on an assembly line. But there's still a lot of human labor around the periphery of that assembly line, bringing components to the line and then taking a number of components that are going onto the car and doing what's called kitting them and getting them ready to be installed on the car frame as a package. That kitting process of being able to take a number of different parts out of different boxes, put them into a single cubby or tote so that they're ready for assembly, that has historically been a very labor-intensive process because humans have been needed to be able to identify what's the right part for this vehicle. We're able to now automate that with a simple robot and our software. So it's a myriad of use cases across manufacturing, repair and maintenance, you name it. We're really trying to produce a fairly broad scope software package that does not require customization for each industry or application.
Wow, I love that. Okay, thank you for those examples. They're really good. You mentioned revenue and growth. So let me ask you a question about the robotics market or the drone market. How big do you think it can get, the TAM, the total addressable market for Palladyne, and how do you plan on capturing that?
So we have just launched our commercial products in the first quarter. Our industrial robot product launched at the beginning of the year. Our drone product, we announced that we just completed commercialization of it at the end of last quarter. So we're just getting ready to start getting customers and revenues. The sales cycle is still something that we don't know the real answer to. How long is it? Particularly in challenging times like these, where we've got a lot of, uncertainty about the economy and tariffs and all of that. So we'll see. We're in the learning process about how long the sales cycle is, but I can tell you we're certainly seeing a lot of interest and traction. In terms of the size of the TAM, I read an article recently that said that there are 500,000 new industrial robots that have been put into service globally each year for the last 3 years. That's 1.5 million new robots just over the last 3 years. And that adds to, millions of robots that have been in place for years and years. We think we've got an opportunity both to retrofit some of those existing robots that are in the installed base, as well as to help sell new robots into applications that people didn't think robots could work in before, again, because of the complexity of the job. So, I mean, what's the opportunity set? It's millions of robots. And the numbers are just going to keep going up as we see an acceleration in autonomous machines being able to solve some of the challenges that are resulting from, frankly, a shortage of blue collar workers.
No, that makes perfect sense. And the fact that you can have the robot, quote unquote, think, which I think is a game changer. I don't know anyone else that does it on that kind of a scale that's publicly traded, to your credit, that already has defense contracts and commercial applications and so on and so forth. So this is really, really cool. All right, next question for you. What is one product or idea that Palladyne is excited about, or that you're most excited about, and that you'd like to share with the audience?
I'll tell you, the drone product that we have, I think, is really a game changer. If you think about what militaries around the world have used drones for, it's primarily about trying to increase situational awareness on the field. And historically, these smaller drones have been used by a single soldier in the field with a controller in their hands, and he or she is managing a single drone and trying to get information about what's going on in a battlefield environment or in the field. Um, our software is designed to allow that one soldier now to manage a small fleet of drones that all collaborate with one another, sharing critical information about what's going on in the ground. And specifically, the focus is on being able to identify, prioritize, and track mobile targets on the ground. I'm super excited about what that's going to do to enhance the capabilities of the warfighter, to make them smarter about what's going on in the field, help them make better decisions, all the way from people on the ground through command and control. This is a capability set that some of the larger drones out there, 30, $40 million massive drones have had for a while, but you've never seen it in the small drone, low cost drone area. So I'm super excited about and that's a product we just released.
Oh, congratulations. That's really fantastic. So on to other new products that are out there, please tell, or what's the easiest way to explain what Paladine IQ or Paladine Pilot does for someone who's not a tech expert?
So Paladine IQ is our industrial robot software product that we talked about a few minutes ago. It does two key things. Number one, it allows you to train a robot to perform a new task in a matter of minutes, and it can be done by somebody that doesn't have any technical expertise at all. That's where I said we were democratizing the programming of robots. Um, Historically, to program an industrial robot like on an assembly line, it takes millions of lines of code, and it takes months, if not longer, to be able to do that. We're now talking about being able to program a robot in a matter of minutes. I personally think that's about 20% of the value proposition. The other 80% of the value proposition is that our system now allows a robot to perform multiple tasks instead of being single-threaded, only performing one task. So most of the robots that are out there in the world today, they're doing the same job over and over again, 24/7. It's that one specific highly programmed task, and that's it. With our software, we can now teach a robot to be almost as dynamic and versatile and agile as a human. We can now allow, how we humans can do a lot of different tasks. As long as we're trained how to do it, we can go do many, many different tasks. That's what we're trying to do with our robot.
Got it. No, that makes perfect
Agile.
sense.
And the
Yeah,
more agile they are, the more ROI there is for the customer that is deploying the robot.
got it. No, that makes perfect sense. Thank you. So you're saying you can basically take these robots that are not so much like very limited in their scope, but allow them to do more things and increase their productivity, hence increasing the customer's productivity, hence them wanting to subscribe or buy more licensing for
That's
you
right.
and do it to more robots. Is that a good way
You
to
got it.
summarize?
That's the exact right way to think about it. And particularly as we're looking at more manufacturing coming back to the U.S., um, there's a lot of talk about more localized or regional manufacturing, where you need to have smaller plants that can do more. Think of a higher mix, lower volume kind of manufacturing environment. Well, that is perfect for what our software does. It
Got it.
enables one robot to do a lot of different things.
Got it. Thank you for that. Okay, a few more questions here. These are going to be a little bit deeper. If you touched on them, please just allow some wiggle room here because questions have come in from investors. So can you please explain how your products work in relation to other OEMs, hardware and software ecosystems?
You bet. So most of the large robot OEMs, the industrial arm robot OEMs, publish APIs as part of the package that they deliver to a customer. Our software can interface with the APIs that those OEMs produce, and we don't actually need anything from the robot OEM to make our software work with their robots. So we ride on top of the operating system that is shipped with the OEM's robot. It's a very simple interface process, very, very simple to do. And as a result, we can work with all these different OEMs. And in fact, I think today we are operating on four of the largest manufacturers' robotic arms that represent something north of 160 different discrete models of robots.
Got it. Okay. And then do you replace the OEM operating system, or how many robots and OEMs can the software work with?
So we ride on top of the robot OEM operating system. So we don't replace it. And in fact, we don't even interfere with some of the hard and fast rules that OEMs put into the machine. So from a safety perspective, for example, we can't override any of the safety limitations that are inherent in the robot OEM's operating system. So we complement it, ride on top of it, but don't interrupt it or disturb it. And in terms of how many different robots, as I mentioned, I mean, I think it's north of 160 models today. We've got some that we're not operating on some manufacturers, and as demand comes in from customers, we can fairly easily, in a matter of weeks, retrofit the software to work on new robot OEM systems.
Oh, wow, that's awesome. So there's not really a lag or a long time for it to work. You can just not plug and play, but almost plug and play.
It's very close. Yeah,
Okay,
that's right.
wonderful. How should we think about unit economics, please?
So on the Paladine IQ software product, we charge an annual license fee of $35,000 as kind of the list price. Certainly, if somebody's talking about a large volume, you might see some discounts associated with that. But think about it, $35,000 a year. On top of that, I mentioned that we sell a small computer box that has the software loaded on it that gets co-located with each robot, and we sell that for $20,000. But that's a one-time upfront cost. So if you have our system, our software operating for 10 years, you pay the 20,000 on day one, you pay a $35,000 license fee every year. When you think about our kind of the macro perspective of the finances of our business, we're burning right now in a kind of a pre-revenue perspective, somewhere between $1.5 and $2 million a month. We have $46.5 million of cash on hand as of March 31 of this year. So we have a nice long runway financially. We're in good shape financially. We have no debt on our books. But when you think about those, back to those per unit economics, if you have somewhere between 500 and 1,000 robots around the world at $35,000 per year, you've more than covered our total cash outlay. So this is a business that with not many robots installed, we can get to cash flow positive and then really start printing cash, because as we scale, we don't have to scale up the business very much. We're gonna add some sales and marketing support. We're gonna add some customer care and support. But other than that, the core team that we have that's developed the software, that's what we need. So this is a scalable business from a financial model perspective.
Yeah, and buying discounted cash flow, like buying future cash flow, that's a clear path to prosperity. So congratulations on that. Let's talk about some milestones. What are some major milestones, Ben, that you'd like to share with investors, product development, acquisition, anywhere you want to go with that?
So, 2024 was all about trying to get the product commercialized, which we set out a target of commercializing the IQ product by the end of last year and commercializing the pilot drone product by the end of the first quarter of this year. We hit those milestones. So product development wise, V1 is out there and getting introduced to customers in the field. For 2025, our whole focus is bringing in customers and proving to both customers and to investors that there is a product market fit and that customers are willing to pay our price for the value that we're delivering. So milestones to look for from us for 25, it's all about customer wins. And that's, as we get customer wins that we are able to talk about, and some customers don't want us to publicly talk about what we're doing, but as long as we are, good from the customer perspective, we'll be publicly talking about our use cases and our customers.
Got it. No, that makes perfect sense. So let's talk about near-term opportunities. What are some near-term opportunities that you'd like to share with the audience? And what does success look like in 2 to 3 years?
Well, for me, success is getting to cash flow positive and then building our profitability from there. That is what I am focused on for my first, second, and third priorities. Getting to cash flow positive and then producing a replicable, scalable, profitable business that anybody would be proud to own. So near-term opportunities, we've got We've got engagement with dozens of companies right now. Near term is all about reeling in those customers, showing them the value proposition, getting them to start with a few number of units and expand as they understand what the full capability of our system is.
Got it. No, it makes perfect sense. And then as far as the um, your government, I guess, government contract, the business side of it, government versus commercial, is there a focus on any specific direction that you want to grow, or is it just a matter of like, hey, let's go out there and whatever the best application is, let them work?
We've got teams that are focused on both the defense sector and the commercial sector. Fortunately for us, with regard to the industrial robotics side, the IQ product, the needs of the military are very similar to the needs of the commercial customers. I mean, when you look at, for example, aircraft maintenance and repair, same issues facing commercial customers as the Air Force. So we've got a lot of crossover. Use cases are very, very similar. The customer is just different. And contracting with the government can be a little more challenging sometimes than dealing with private companies or public companies. So we've got two skilled workforces in our sales teams that are focused on those two discrete areas. On the drone side, we think that the lion's share of the volume, at least in the near term, will be defense driven rather than commercial driven. We certainly have applications and opportunities on the commercial side, primarily revolves around infrastructure inspection. I think that that's a smaller number of units, at least over the next 2 to 3 years. But if you'd say, where are we 3 years from now? I think we're probably, revenue-wise, we're probably 70% commercial, 30% defense, and that's just a guess. I mean, I don't have a crystal ball on that, but that's just what my gut tells me today.
Gotcha. And then as far as the last question, what is one thing or some things that people don't know about Palladyne that you'd like them to know about?
One thing they may not know is that we've actually been around for a long time as a company, primarily in the hardware side of robotics. And we were one of the very first companies focused on humanoid robots. We were doing that in the early 90s, late 80s, making some of the very first humanoid robots out there, working with DARPA and NASA and others on humanoid robots, partnered with Boston Dynamics on some military programs. All of that said, we learned a lot of lessons about what makes robots work well and not so well. We learned a lot of things about design. We learned a lot about how software is an absolutely critical component of making the hardware function properly. So all of that said, it's really important to understand that our DNA is in robotics. We're not just a bunch of smart kids that came out of grad school and went into a garage and tried to dream up a way to solve some problems. We're actually dealing with real problems that we've encountered over decades of effort. And that's what led us to this very novel approach to AI for robotics. Again, I don't think there are many people that are doing it, any that I'm aware of, they're doing it our way. And we wouldn't be doing it our way if it wasn't for 3 decades of knowledge and hard knocks when it comes to robotic hardware.
I love it. Well, Ben, thank you so much for taking the time today. It's been absolutely fantastic, and hopefully we'll speak to you again soon.
Thank you so much for your time today.